Welcome, welcome. Dr. Stephen Hobbs here from the Wealth Movement. And this is video number 3 of 3 of the Wellther series with Gabrielle Brick. And Gabrielle and I were having a chat after the last video because it was when I mentioned this word passion was bubbling up. There seems to be something that was happening there. And I said, why don't we explore that at the start of this video? And Gabrielle agreed. And then I said, well, maybe what we could do is take a look at some connection around emotions and nutrition and movement as a way in which to sort of close off the Wellther series, because that's, I know, near and dear to Gabrielle's heart, and it's a lot of where we've been having great conversations. So that's where we're going. Gabrielle, okay? Mm-hmm. And what we're going to do is start off with this thing called passion. What's it about, or what is you'd like to share? Some of the ideas that you have.
Okay, so I think passion for me, well, it's not that I think, it's like a knowing, right? When we are passionate about life, we are passionate about the things that we're doing, we show up in a totally different way than if we're just sort of going through the motions. And my passion is helping people rediscover their passion for self, right? And that ties into our relationship with food, because food is such an essential component to our existence and how we exist, how we show up, how we engage or lack thereof. And so I think passion is a powerful word because it evokes a particular emotion, right? To emote, to move, right, through life.
Yeah, and it's very much the new use of the word passion, because I've always associated passion in its years before came from a place of suffering. Is to go through passion was a place of suffering. If you look back into its earlier use in Latin and that. And it was always a case, if you got to go through a little bit of suffering, the storyline was you always get to go through a little bit of suffering. In other words, you got to stay with your passion. You got to go through some of that to be able to get to the other side of it. But
tragic beauty.
Right. And I like the word that you use, to evoke and then to emote. Mm-hmm. There's something there. I would even use the word evolve as well, right? Mm-hmm. And to look at what it is you're doing and how does it evoke something, and how does the emote that comes with it, how does the evolve that comes with it. So I really love where you're going with it.
Thank you. Yeah.
So if that passionate part has that emote with it, then there must be some connection with emotions as a whole. Anything you'd like to share there?
I mean, I think there's many directions. To link it to school at home on a simple level, our children we're extremely emotional about. Their education, we're emotional, we're passionate about how they are going to receive their education. And, we're passionate about making sure they're set up for success. And I think teaching our children from the get-go to be independent, creative thinkers is a very important stance that I'm not sure our school system as a whole cultivates. That's another conversation. But I think sitting in that understanding of where our emotions sort of sit or reside and what is at the root of the passion or the desire. And if we bring that to food, which is another very big piece of school at home, is understanding nutrition, our relationship, our emotional attachments to food, and our food choices directly affects our cognitive function, let alone how we perceive and view the world.
Yeah, it does. And there is this emotional tie to food. I get that. All right. Been there, done that, got the over the years, right? Most of it from ignorance to how powerful this food story really is, right? Now that I'm getting a little bit older, when I sort of really take a look at this food aspect, right, and this nutrition aspect, how it links to the emotions, how it links to the movement. Do you want to take it into the world of movement just a little bit more around emotions, food, movement kind of idea? Because that's near and dear to your heart. So
Sure. I mean, on a very, like, to have, I think, sort of a generalized, simple conversation around movement and just looking at the science of food and how our body relates to the nourishment or lack thereof coming in, right? Are you feeling flexible? Are you feeling fluid? Right? That is a direct reflection of the food going in, or the lack of minerals and nutrients, right, available to the body. If we take it a little bit deeper and we get into our emotional attachments to food, the foods that we choose when we need to emotionally eat or stuff or feel safe, right, or feel happy and blissful, right? Those choices also directly affect not only the emotional body's ability to move through life, but the physical body, or the physical body's ability to also move through life, right? Are we stiff and in pain, or are we fluid and full of grace and motion, right? And or something in between? Where are we?
and that's going to play itself out obviously as an entrepreneur. If you're sitting in front of your desk
Exactly.
playing with the computer, right, where my computer is situated right now, it's a little bit higher than when I normally use it, right, because I need it to be able to position to view me. But other positions, you could be a little bit more slouched over. We know these storylines, but what we still continue to get ourselves into places where, oh, yeah, okay, things aren't quite going where they need to go. I'm not as fluid. I'm not as flexible. So that's really important. And I think it's a great reminder to keep being reminded. So as you're listening to this, check what your posture is and what you're doing with your computer. Right?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point. Like with entrepreneurship, I've had to create standing desks because so much of my work is centered around the computer, and sometimes even in my own right busyness, forgetting like, oh my God, I've been sitting for 6 hours. No wonder my body hurts, right? And having to like stretch and, oh my God, let me unplug here for a minute and turn it off and go outside and have a cup of tea and smell the fresh air, all the way to, okay, if I've got to work for the next 3 hours, I can't do it sitting. So let me stand up. Let me get a standing desk thing and get the computer on an angle so that I'm not getting, carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Little,
So yeah,
yeah,
so
hacks like
important.
that.
Yeah. What about the spiritual aspect of the nutrition and movement? Any thoughts there?
Food, I think, is one of the most profound keys into the alchemy of self. It is the base metal, the lead, if you will, or the body being the lead, right? And we're putting this base element into our body. And it is through the understanding of what food does functionally, as well as our emotional attachments to food. That conversation is so big. And allowing that conversation, like first really understanding on a basic alchemical level, when you put certain foods into your body, how that like chemically affects your body, which therefore affects your mind, which therefore affects your spirit, because we are all connected. So when you go on that journey, you go through the steps of alchemy, the dissolution, where you dissolve to what you think you know, to who you think you know about yourself or who you think you are, right? All the way to then the rediscovery or the recoagulation, the coming back together of the self in a brand new way. And it can be at times like the rising of the phoenix. It truly, I think one of my most favorite and passionate experiences has been this journey through food, and especially with one particular food, chocolate, raw, unadulterated chocolate. And I used to make chocolate that was in like 200 stores across the nation, blah, blah. It was amazing. The one chocolate bar, one life, one love, one chocolate. But I'm sharing that because it was in working with this food. I was already on the journey of health and have been since actually my early teens. I've been very steeped in the world. And so that piece of emotional attachment and the passion for what I've discovered in the evolution, all of that stuff has been a lifelong journey. And it's my passion, is what I love, helping people rediscover those aspects within themselves. And it was in working with the element of chocolate, which is food, and because it's temperament, this alchemical agent has to be handled so specifically, or else it doesn't work. It doesn't create the beautiful, shiny, snappy chocolate bar. And the process that you have to go through in order to get that perfect chocolate bar, to me, was such a revelation in how we as humans process our lives, how we process the food coming in and going out, and the emotions, the people, the things we choose, right? It's yeah.
Yeah, it's a great connection. I think the Japanese sort of have an understanding of that through the tea ceremony.
Yes, yes.
There's something similar there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the word that you are weaving in right now is this rediscovery,
Mm-hmm.
right? About the discovery and really being in that discovery. And I think you're also offering, and I'm going to take a bit of a leap here, I think what you're also offering is the sense of the re-story, that we've had a
Yes.
story in our minds about what it is to be an entrepreneur. What does it mean to have nutrition? What does it mean to have movement? What does it mean? What does it mean? We've had these stories and different angles come at us, but really in today's world, we've got to do a re-story. We've got to get back into that story and do some shifting and shaking. Anything about that re-story concept as it links to what you're doing?
Oh God, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, what is the most profound piece is that when people come out of my programs and through my own journey in this particular movement, has been a complete rediscovery of self, and the recognition, the recognition, right, that I am the absolute creator of my life. And so I get to choose what I want to create, and therefore I'm recreating my book of life.
And therefore you're going through a re-story as well.
Exactly. Well, and to me, that was the whole, like, the connection to the re-story is recreating your story. What do you want to create for yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
And in today's world with so much noise coming at us, right? There's light noise, there's food noise, right? There's ideas noise coming at us. There's lots and lots of different noise, and sorting out that news from the noise. And I've always liked that news part because it's northeast, west, and south, and it's how you bring in all the different elements, because it's coming from everywhere, not just from one place, right? And to be able to learn about nutrition, right? The other conversations we've been having is around neuroscience.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to bring those into play. If you were to suggest to our listeners on this video, what would be 2 or 3 tips around nutrition and movement that you would want to give our entrepreneurial journeyers, those who journey with us with this entrepreneurial idea, and for parents from a school at home point of view? What would be some three base ideas?
Water is actually what has been coming through loud and clear while the moment you asked. Water is so essential to life. And I invite you to explore the true nature of water, both on a physical level, understanding where the water you're drinking is coming from and what's in it, because that will affect your cognitive function, your physical function, and your connection to source. I invite you in your exploration of water to check out findaspring.com. And if there's a natural spring near you, go out and explore what it's like to drink water bursting out of a spring. It's truly life-changing. And water, it's the emotion of life. It's the emotion. It has to do with movement. And then if we look at water from the space of being, from the emotional beings that we are, it's the famous quote that Bruce Lee, which I love and admire greatly, we must become water. Water simply is. It allows itself in every aspect to flow, whether it's against a mountain, through a crevice, or a raging river. It's always flowing. So I invite you to really explore and expand into the idea and concept of what water is.
Second one?
Chocolate.
There you go.
I had to. That is raw, unroasted, organic, heirloom. Ariba Nacional is actually the brand in particular, not the brand, but the strain of cacao. Cacao is what cocoa is the version that has been, how do I want to say this? Cocoa, as we know it, that chocolate-like powder at the store that's been heavily processed and comes from hybridized trees, that has ruined lots of countries, is very different than cacao, the food that chocolate comes from. Cacao, the Latin is theobroma, which is the food of the gods, and appropriately named. And it chemically has over 300 compounds that support the function of the body in its raw, unadulterated state. It is also the #1 source of magnesium, and magnesium is the #1 mineral for the heart. So to understand that on an esoteric level, that we have this connection of love and chocolate is very real. When you start to imbibe this food, because of what it does for the body, it literally releases anandamide, which is our bliss chemical, and it helps to decalcify our pineal gland. And so the experiences and the awakenings and the revelations, just by simply biting into a raw, unadulterated piece of chocolate, can be pure magic.
Wow. Okay. Dear listeners, I think if you heard that last couple of minutes, I would say there's a little bit of love in there. Is there a third one that you'd like to offer to us? We've done water, we've done chocolate, anything else? And it could be about movement.
Allowing.
Interesting. Keep going.
Allowing yourself to be where you are, to give yourself breath and space to witness the emotions that begin to arise, if they haven't already, that have you questioning your existence or your path or your purpose. Allow yourself to be present to those, because if you follow the breadcrumbs, it will lead you into an exploration, the recreation, the rediscovery, the restory of self. So allow yourself to feel, because it is only through the allowance of feeling that we can heal anything that's under the surface.
And that's important to what we've been sort of a thread that's been going through this emotions.
And the movement.
And the movement that goes with that. Yeah, I can see that. And so when you're on your next walk, make sure that you're allowing yourself to be in that space. Bring that chocolate along to have a bit of a bite, and make sure you have some water as you're walking, right?
Absolutely. The combo is good. Smell the fresh air, look at the flowers, and just be present and be happy that you're alive.
Yeah, and celebrate that, and share that celebration with other people, I think is also important at this point, right?
So important, right? The gratitude, that's been a really big piece for me, the gratitude, the profundity of allowing, like, wow, like I'm excited to just be here with you, and how our exchange always uplifts me and inspires me and has me questioning another layer of existence. That to me is the passion of life. It's living life fully and allowing myself to feel and to move through those emotions and to really explore everything that's being presented. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. That's wonderful. Well, at the end of the video, you'll find a link to Gabrielle's website. And I would encourage you to go explore what it is that she's offering. And it's much more than that website. And I think we would all agree, having listened to the three videos. So with great appreciation, thank you very much, right, Gabrielle, for sharing your thoughts over the last sort of, let's call it an hour, right? It's in 3 20-minute blocks. But thank you for just being you and being here, being present, and sharing your ideas and insights about business and life. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Stephen. It's always such a pleasure.